The past haunts us all, whether it be a person, place, or thing. We are reluctant to let go. We call to the dead out of desperation and intrigue, searching for answers about what lies behind the shadows. We are paranormal researchers. We are Necromancers. Hello, and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. I am your host, Justin Brown, and this is episode 23 with Paul Welch. I'm pretty excited to talk to Paul. We are pretty similar in what we do. He actually has a paranormal magazine that I want to talk to him about and get to know all about. He's from Utah, and without further ado, we'll bring him over and we'll introduce him to you guys. What's up, Paul? How are you doing, buddy?
Good, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I can't complain too much. I'm glad you're on the show. I appreciate it a lot, and I hopefully we'll have a great conversation about all the paranormal stuff that we do and that we're obsessed with. I read your bio, and it seems like you're pretty you keep pretty busy. Is that right?
Yeah, it's good and bad sometimes to keep that busy.
Right.
The only time you really get a break is about this time of year when it slows down a little bit.
That's right. Based on your bio, I didn't read about a whole lot of stuff happening on early on in your life. Is that true or not? As far as the paranormal goes.
As far as paranormal, I've had experiences going back to like my teenage years that I kind of usually would just write off as just normal everyday stuff because I was fascinated by ghosts, Bigfoot, and all that. It's like it wasn't a reality for me to even think ghosts. It's like it's something that didn't happen.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until like I got married in 2000 where we started having our house, things happening at work, that I started really saying this is kind of odd. But I didn't really start until about 2011, where we just kind of won tickets to go investigate the Asylum 49 on a public hunt, and that's where I got the bug.
So, I'm curious. Before we go into this interview, like, what kind of things would you write off? What was you experiencing? Like, you would hear things, bumps in the night. What was it?
Well, that particular night on my as far as earlier in life,
Right.
you mean?
Yes.
Right. I'd be hearing voices sometimes in a building with no people because I used to work in a restaurant overnight by myself over the weekends, and I'd be hearing conversations in the bathroom, and I'd have things thrown in the building. I've had chili thrown. I've had open and stuff fly out of them.
Really?
Happening at work, it's the only one there, and it's like you try to excuse it away, and it's just you know
How do you try to? What would you try? How would you try to explain that?
you would just say, "Oh, it was ready to fall," or maybe the surface it was on was slippery and it just finally gave way.
Mm-hmm.
Because there'd be brooms knocking over by themselves, stuff that was sitting for hours just fine in pure silence when there's no noise. Just boom, it's down it goes, and it just kind of wakes you up. Like, whoa, did I just hear that? It's 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm the only one here.
Right. Did you live in an old home? Was it a new home? What kind of a house was it? What kind of community was it?
Well, this happened. I was running a stonecutter restaurant, and it was in a very quiet part of town. After 2 o'clock, it was just dead. And around that neighborhood, it was an older neighborhood. It's an old restaurant, and I don't know if the restaurant was haunted itself, but things would always seem to happen when I was there in the evenings. And I would even get calls from my spouse where she'd be at home, knocked over, or moved in the house. and I'm stuck at work alone. I can't go do nothing to check it out, you know.
Right.
And like I said, it's like it was back way before I even got into the paranormal, so it's just you want to try to find an excuse for everything just to make sense.
Hmm.
But I'm an investigator, it's like sense for any of that stuff to be happening.
I can relate to that. A large portion of my brain wants to try to make sense of what is seemingly paranormal or what could be looking like it's paranormal, but there's that skeptical side of your brain like, wait a minute, it could be this, it could be that, because you know a lot of men especially, they get into psychology. They know that your mind can play tricks on you, your eyes, ears can all play tricks on you, so you wonder. But sometimes we have profound experiences. I'm curious, what was your first profound experience where you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt 100% that what you were experiencing and dealing with was not normal?
The very first like really profound experience happened at the Mackey Mansion. Um, we were just doing a tour there. We were out filming a documentary actually in town in Virginia City, and we were killing time. We're like, let's go tour the Mackey Mansion. We didn't even know you can book it for personal investigations when we were there. And we were touring. We went upstairs, and I was, just kind of filming, just getting some footage for B-roll at the time for the film. And I started like having like serious chest pains pouring down off my head, and I thought I was gonna have a heart attack right there on the spot. And it turned out like on film we actually were catching some EVPs at that very moment of them wanting us to get out. And I went down and I talked to the lady who, she kind of runs the ghost hunts there, Dawn. And she was telling me the story about the two robbers that tried to rob the safe there on the main floor, and they got shot right in the chest. She goes, other people actually get that sensation when they're upstairs. And that was the first time like a light bulb turned on at that moment. And after that trip, I was having some pretty crazy experiences, and they just seemed to amp up. Like, my paranormal experiences just got 100% turned up after that one.
That's interesting. For starters, Mackey Mansion has always intrigued me. It looks like a super cool place. I always gravitate to historical locations like that, especially the way it looks. And I would love to go there. That would be the first place I would go if I was in Virginia City, along with the Washoe Club. But it's interesting that you say after you experience something like that, it's almost like, in my opinion, that your senses become more heightened, or you might open yourself up to such things in kind of a weird way when it happens. Do you agree with that or no?
I do. I've had two near death experiences growing up. Um, One was in the military. I was in a vehicle explosion that I shouldn't have survived because on a big fuel tanker truck that exploded, and it just kind of blew me a football field away from the truck.
Wow.
And they just found me like walking around, just talking to myself, not making sense. But after that, when I got back to my hometown, I was working at a pizza place, and they had a carbon monoxide leak, and they found me passed out in the back, and they had to use the paddles to bring me back to life.
Wow.
So I've had those two experiences, and I've always wondered, does that do anything as far as
Right.
connect you to the other side? Yeah.
Did you have a near death
But
experience at all?
what's that?
Did you have a near death experience when that happened? Did you see like
Well,
anything?
all I remember is blackness. It's like I remember like it was totally dark, and I couldn't see anything. It's like I could hear all this stuff going on, but like not as myself. It's like I was standing feet away, and I'm hearing all this going on behind the people that were trying to bring me back, and it was just so weird. Like, I didn't see a light. I didn't see any. didn't see myself,
Hmm.
but I was like hearing everything that was going on.
That's interesting. So did you think after that you started having more experiences, or you were sensing or receiving things more in a spiritual sense?
I think it really started like once I got married. It's when it because I was married to a medium, and she's able to talk to them. She could see them. She
Right.
didn't know her gifts at first, but she's she's really gifted in doing that. She could read buildings over the phone, so she could just call a place up and tell you what's going on. But
Oh,
that's when it really started to kick in, and all these experiences started to happen because I was with her all the time.
interesting. So it's all your wife's doing. She's the one that pretty much brought you in to a whole nother understanding of what's out there, and that's cool.
Yeah, not just an understanding because she also got me into the paranormal. Yeah, I won tickets to go do it with a friend, and it really intrigued me, and I wanted to do it more. But she actually started going to this séance where she knew people who did paranormal investigations, and of course, I started coming around, and then we started doing these, more investigating, and it kind of went crazy after that.
Wow. So you and your wife pretty much go to places together, right?
Not anymore. We used to at first. We used to investigate with each other a lot at first, and then it's like we couldn't. All of a sudden, it's like she had a total different style than I had. I'm more of the technical side, and she was like she could talk to them. She's answering questions that I'm asking for them. It's like no, let them answer. I'm trying to get a document. I like to catch stuff,
Mm,
and after a while, it's like I split off from the team that we created. Um, there's more I wanted to do. I wanted to concentrate more on the actual the paranormal, telling the story. I just couldn't do that in a team environment. I had to branch out. I had to work with a bunch of different people that I love and be free to do so and free to do stuff like this. So yeah, it's like I left that situation, and we just recently got separated back in August, so we're not together anymore. But she still does it. I still do what I do. So,
interesting. I can relate to that. I'm huge in collecting data, trying to use, science, the scientific method in a lot of ways. Even though I do believe that science definitely can't explain everything that there is to, do with the paranormal, but it's definitely a useful tool and a way to go about researching things that you don't understand that you want to try to explain, like EVP, psychokinetic phenomena, a whole array of things that I really try to apply science to. Do you try to apply science much as possible when it comes to those type of things?
you do. I mean, I do. I try to make sense of things. I like things. I like to think everything is paranormal, and it's just not. It's like you could flip on a light switch, and they could sometimes set off your millimeters, your proximity alarms. You just have to know of your. You have to be aware of your surroundings. You investigate a building that's haunted, sure, but what's on the outside of the building? What does the traffic on the outside look like? How much foot traffic is nearby that you might be hearing?
Right.
So it takes a lot of training of listening to your audio, and you constantly go back and you listen to it. Like there's a pattern that's on the outside of your location, so you could pick this stuff apart.
Do you ever stick a recorder and a camera out there outside?
I I have not. No, normally I'll scope it out, but I've never just left equipment sitting outside. I'm always worried about that.
Yeah, what I do is I take a small little, dictaphone or a digital recorder and I'll stash it somewhere outside so I can cross check it with stuff that we hear inside. And if when I do that, I it can be 100% sure if it came from out there. But if you're worried about, I can completely understand if you're worried about someone taking it. That's why I try to hide it. But I kind of ask if people do that because you mentioned outside contamination, which is a huge factor, especially if you're in a town or a place where there's a lot of traffic. So that's a good point. So,
Yeah, you always have to
go
keep
ahead.
in
I'm
mind.
sorry.
I just say you always have to keep that in mind. It's like we like to jump to, hey, I caught this on audio, um, but we have to know what's nearby. Just like geophones, they detect vibration, and when they're beeping, they're going off. It seems awesome. But did you catch a large truck going by on your audio at the same time? Is the earth enough to set it off? You just you have to be an investigator, or you're like solving a crime almost. Instead of just
Right.
saying, I caught this, this is what it is. Point.
I have a question for you in chat if you don't mind, Paul. Zach Waters wants to know if you believe in demons.
Yes, I do. I think they're rare as rare can be. There's probably just a few cases across the country of actual demons. So what we report is demonic activity is just some spirit putting himself out there that way to scare us off, get us to leave, um, and not come back. So I do think there are some demons out there. I think that power is true and true, but I just don't think it happens as often as we think.
Why do you think that it does? Why do you think it's rare?
I just that's just the way I feel about it. It's just, to me, it just seems like evil in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And that what we come across mostly, and not all of it is like demons. It could be something non-human, but I consider demons to be something that's just a pure evil harm. While other things just might be really negative energy that's just draining, or just puts themselves as something they're not. And there's I wish there was a true answer for that, but it
Right.
just
It's hard to tell, isn't it?
yeah.
I have questions that I always wonder about when we're on this subject matter. Do you believe that if demons exist, are they all pure evil? Is it possible that you could be encountering a demon, but it not come across as the stereotypical demon would?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think they could definitely portray something nicer,
Like a
to
child.
do their bidding. Yep, like a child. Um, it could easily, like, just clone themselves to something else, to fool us, to get that comfort zone, to get that connection.
To
They
get what it
don't know what
needs,
their
right?
their plan is. What's that?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but to get what it needs is kind of what I was thinking.
They get what they need out of you, whatever that be. And usually it's that connection, it's that trust. They think through trust. You think you're talking to a little girl, you're trying to invite them into things, you're trying to communicate. It lets them in, it gives them that open door. Maybe they need permission to have, that open door permission to attach, to follow you. And this is a means to do so.
Right. It's pretty fascinating to not only speculate but try to understand outside of just thinking and speculating what could be out there. What do you try to do when you're out investigating and researching to try to understand more about what's out there? I know you use all the basic tools that pretty much that I've seen you use on your documentaries and everything. What do you try to do to push the science, to push the research, to understand more?
I try to change it up. It's like we have our normal everyday routine, or normal questions that we ask. Little experiments, that are not the norm. Usually, it's something that you want to try, even if it's a little comedy. I usually will say some funny stuff during investigations. I put it out there. I'll just oddball things, and sometimes I get evidence doing so. I get laughter caught or responses based on what I'm doing, because I think it kind of puts the comfort level out there for them to communicate with us. They're like, hey, they're just normal people. There's other experiences like just leaving recorders in empty buildings. After you walk away, you can catch some pretty amazing things sometimes, because they think the coast is clear. They could just do what they do. You're gone, but come back later. You got a lot of stuff there. But there's a lot of different things you can throw out there. Play music. A lot of people say it's dark. Play church songs. See what that does.
Right. It's always interesting to try to think outside the box and try to do things to elicit a response or some type of activity. I'm curious if you collect data, like every time you go out, do you take note of the day, the year, the temperature, all types of environmental factors and readings? Do you log that very carefully?
As far as actual environment readings, no, I don't. Um, my computer, I have a whole hard drive full of stuff. So it's all pretty organized as far as, this date, this location. I have all the audio, all the pictures, all that still. For years, I have all that stuff. And I have it in case I want to go back over it and over it again and re-listen to it. But I do not I don't take environmental data. I might make note of, yeah, there was an electrical storm, lightning storm that night, and our K2s were going crazy. Location that's really close to high powered power lines, the high intensity ones.
Mm-hmm.
Those can make your gear go crazy. So, like I said, it's just a mental note of your surroundings. Keep going back and back and over and over again, and I try to get the same results multiple times.
So you go back to the same locations more than
Oh, I
once.
did. Yeah, Leslie Family Tree. I'm probably there at least once a month, if not more.
Wow, I bet you got plenty of research going on there.
You actually get to know like the local spirits of the building. You get to know their names. Like you'll ask for them, and they're always there. And then there's the ones that just always come and go. Because it's just a stopping point. Like there's always new spirits at the family tree.
Right. Outside the Mackey Mansion, what else do you do, and what different types of places do you do? Businesses for people? Do people with businesses call you up? Do homeowners call you up? Do you do those type of cases?
I did a lot of those when I was on a team, but now that I'm solo and I do more of the documenting, whether it's filming documentaries or the magazine, I do less. I haven't done a house since that time, because they don't just call the one person. They call a team. They'll research a team. They'll call a team out. I've gone and done buildings with a small group of people. Usually hotels and stuff that are out here. If we get access, we'll do the hotels. But not as like actually having clients that hire me to come find out what's going on. They usually will find a local team to do that.
Right, right. Um, how often do you actually capture something that you are pretty sure that is paranormal that you can validate when you go out and do things? Is it rare? Is it frequent?
It depends on the location.
Okay.
If you go to the Washer Club, you're going to walk away with something from the Washer Club. I guarantee it. Mackey Mansion is pretty much the same. Tree is hit or miss. But yeah, you can go months without actually getting like a solid piece of evidence. And when I mean solid, I'm not talking about like app responses. I'm talking about actual could not explain. Either you were the only one in the room, or it's not anybody that was with you. That's what I consider the evidence. That's what I like to document. The actual app responses like EchoBox or any of the others that are out there. I just tested one this last week and called it MegaBox, and those are great because it's like you often can't explain where those responses come from. It doesn't exist in those apps, but it's still not the same as actual voice phenomenons that you catch.
Hmm.
That you're the only one there in the building.
I have a good question from chat for you, Paul. You get to pick one piece of equipment and one person to investigate with for 1 week. Everything is paid for. What would it be and with who?
I always go with the voice recorder, and it would be with Zach because he's actually someone I go investigate with all the time, and we film together.
Ah, so he was baiting you for that answer, was he?
Like, take me. No, we work really good together, and he's a lot of fun. So
It's always
we usually go to the Marshall Club.
it's always nice to have somebody that you really get along with and respect to go out and do that. I really wish me and my wife could go out and do it more, but it would probably just be more fighting and bickering if we did. So it's nice to to kind of have those times where you kind of get off and do your own thing. I try to encourage her to go off and do things that she likes to do, outside of work and family, which can be so taxing. But I'm wondering if you would decide to just one day say, okay, I've had enough. What would be the reason to get you to stop doing what you do?
Health, my health. Currently having a lot of health issues, and I've thought about stopping. I've thought about, okay, is my health caused by doing all these paranormal investigations? Is it making it worse? Being around negative energy or energy, but energy that is feeding off of you. Um, and we bring it home sometimes. It's around us. It changes our moods. So that'd be the one thing that would cause me to quit, as if my health told me to pretty much call it over.
What do you try to do, or what do you do to help protect yourself from that happening, or to slow it down?
Nothing. I do nothing. I've been told to protect myself, and I'm like, I'm there to actually have experiences. I'm there to capture these experiences on film, whether it's people in the room filming myself. I don't like to film myself. But yeah, it's like I don't want to ward them off when I'm trying to communicate with them, so I don't protect myself.
So you're like one of those mad scientists or doctors that injects themselves with the virus just to see if their medicine works, kind of deal.
It, it works for me. I get a lot of spirits that call me out. It could be across multiple things that we're using. I get called out all the time on investigations. Like they know who I am. It's like I've never protected myself. Um, I've been saged before heading home. It's a rare occurrence for me. Usually it's somebody who wants to do that, and I just join it.
Interesting. Um, I had a question and it left my brain. Let's see if I can dig it back out of there.
Uh-oh. It could be in there deep.
um, let's see if we can find another one for you, Paul. Do you, do you believe in the psychic phenomena? Do you believe? I know you said that you believe that your wife had abilities, but do you believe in the psychic phenomena in a whole? Are you skeptical of a lot of psychics and mediums out there? And do you ever see what they can bring to a paranormal research investigation? Do you ever try to implement that?
Um, I do believe in it. Being married to one, I've seen her put people in tears just in random public places, with what she knows. And, these are people she's never met before.
Hmm.
But I also know that, there is a lot of, out there with people who are just pretending to be, which kind of ruins the image of them. That's why a lot of people are really skeptic of them, because you have so many that are passing as one, uh, or portraying their gifts to be more than they are. But there are true psychics out there. Investigating with them, I think it's a tool. It's not something, I don't think, like, would be good for an entire investigation, but to have them come in and validate either your findings after the fact, them do a walkthrough before, without the actual investigation team, and record that to see if it matches up with anything you come up later. Um, it's a validation tool, pretty much, is what it would be. And of course, if you have clients like homeowners, business owners, it's really comforting if you have a really good medium that can give them the answers on the spot that they need. So they come in really handy for those.
Yeah, I like what you said about cross-checking and validating the psychic ability one might have if they're in a location. We do something very similar. We do double-blind experiments with all the people in our group that we use, and see if they can pick up on anything. Or do they pick up on the same things? They go in blind. We document them going through there, and you're almost investigating that individual and their results along with the location, just to just to find evidence or data to help validify that type of phenomena. Would you agree that that's what you try to do?
I don't try to really disprove the mediums. It's more of like just to see if we get the same thing.
Right, I didn't mean to
Uh,
come across like that, but just to see if it's the same things.
yeah, so you do try to see if you get the same thing. Um, I like to go into locations kind of cold turkey. I don't like to know a lot. I don't like to research on them. I'm just kind of putting that, there, like, okay, this always happens at this location. Um, because your mind will play tricks on you. Your mind is looking for these experiences
Right.
because you've heard of other people having these experiences. So I try to avoid that. I just go in raw and see what I catch. I don't like to ask for names other people have gotten. Um, so and it's the same way with mediums. If they're picking up on something, I don't want to know what it is, because then I'm going to start asking questions based off of that.
Right. It's very true. We're getting some good interaction and questions from chat. Scotty asks, "Are there reliable techniques to stop or discourage things from following you home after an investigation?" I know you don't do much for yourself, but is there anything you would recommend that that may work?
I don't know if there's truly anything out there that truly can stop something from following you home. I know you hear it around the whole paranormal community, just say, don't follow me home. That's told at a lot of public investigations. Just tell them don't follow you home. But I give them a pretty stern warning during the investigation. I'm like, this is my rule. I can come back, we can chat some more, but you're not allowed. I'll even tell them I'll charge them gas money sometimes. But I don't think there's a way to really stop a spirit from following you that wants to.
Right. Zach wants to know if there's a location that you would never return to.
Nothing I'm afraid of. There's not any locations I'm afraid of. But there are locations I'm like iffy about. It would be K's Cross out here that I really wouldn't care if I ever returned to that location.
Do tell.
It's just there's a lot of mystery behind this. It's like a stone cross out in the middle of this field, um, and it's been there a really long time. And there's so many different stories about who made it, who destroyed it, and the hauntings of the location. And of course, there's a lot of myth about deaths being around the cross, proven true. But it's basically just a stone cross in the middle of this wooded area. I went out there one time and it's like I didn't have any feelings, any experiences, nothing caught on audio, and I just felt like this location is mostly just myth. It's not anything that we should really be investigating because it's just stories that were handed down over the years.
Right. No, there's a lot of urban legend and myths and stories about a lot of locations. Is there a place that you investigated that had an urban legend tied to it that you did find phenomena at that location, and did it correlate with the legend?
No. I've investigated quite a few places out here that have these little legends of haunts this building or they haunt this catwalk. I've never ever had their name come up. I've never caught any evidence relating to that. A lot of it's been explained away. Yeah, I've heard noises up on the catwalk, but it was on a breezy day, passing through the catwalk. It's gonna make it move. It's gonna make noise, and then you have metal on steel frame building, which any wind it's gonna flap around. I've investigated the Fort Douglas out here. They have a spirit named Clem at the Fort Douglas. I've investigated that place times, and I've never, ever, ever have validated that claim that there's a Clem there.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always interesting to go out and you got to go out and see, right? The curiosity killed the cat, and you have to see if there's something to it, and that pretty much tries to keep us busy. I know it keeps me busy. There's plenty of places in Ohio, loads of places with stories and legends tied to them, and every once in a while you do find a place, but they're usually legends that have a base in historical fact. When you go to a place that has no
Um,
base in historical fact, that's when you're like, okay, you know, stories can be stories and your mind can play tricks on you. And if you're out there, like you said before, looking for such things, it's easy to find them. But let's shift gears. Let's talk about the documentaries that you've been involved with. What is it that you like about filmmaking and being involved with the documentaries when it comes to the paranormal research?
it's my favorite thing to do actually because you team up with these very qualified people, these handpicked investigators to go out and film. Not only is it an adventure, but you're telling the story. You're using documentary style film story. You're putting the history out there with a little entertainment. And me, I love not only to film, but I like the editing process. So I can sit there and edit all day at my computer. And so we're storytellers. It's just like with the magazine. It's like we're putting together art, but it's putting people in our shoes and experiencing what we're experiencing while being entertained.
Right. And I agree with that. It's awesome to tell the story that you're passionate about the history that you are passionate and you fall in love with, these locations, the people that you surround yourself with and that are involved with those locations. It's all good stuff. And we will plug your stuff at the end of the show, but you guys definitely support Paul and what he does because it is very difficult, time consuming, and expensive to do these type of projects. So the YouTube channel, definitely give him a sub. He does a paranormal magazine. Let's listen to Paul talk about his paranormal magazine, what it's about, and what he is trying to do with it. Go ahead and just let us know what you want us to know about it.
All right, so it was yeah, a couple of years ago. I was on a team, and I'm like, there has to be something more. It's like I'm wanting to do something different, just kind of like what you do with your show here. And I thought the magazine was a good outlet. Not a lot of people do the magazine. I enjoy the creative side of putting it together because it's just me. It's just me that puts it together. I let people contribute stories and little articles. Um, you know, and I don't charge for the magazine, but the whole idea behind the magazine, the name Veracity, is a pursuit of the truth, is what it means. So it's me just putting out true stories, and if they're not true stories, I let people know they're not true stories before we even get into the story, because sometimes those fictional ones are pretty entertaining. But that was the whole goal, was to put out these little stories, these experiences, um, that relate to truth. There's a fluff in the paranormal where we're just making things entertaining, and I enjoy that too. But this is just like, okay, people can read this and know that it happened. This is what we experienced. It hasn't been made fancy, and they'll share pictures as well from the location. But it kind of like my own little mini book that I'll just put out once in a while.
It's a creative process that allows you to get out some type of art, some type of creation. That's what I look at the filmmaking and photography that I do. Aside from the paranormal research, if you like doing stuff, you got to find a way to tie it in with other things. So it kind of helps out the creative process a little bit. And I love when people have paranormal magazines because we're already obsessed with the paranormal. We might as well have it in a format that is refreshing and cool to look at. Like you can flip through, see the. It's only a web based magazine, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So you go to a
It would
website.
cost way too much to publish. What's that?
So you just go to the website or you go to the place where it's up online, and you just flip through it just like you would a physical copy of a magazine.
So if you go to paranormalveracity.net, there's the two issues I have out now. They're just PDF files, so you can download them to your computer. You can flip through them, mobile device, and read it that way. And I tried to make it as accessible as possible. That's why they are PDFs, and they're free. I don't charge any money for
Awesome. Um, is there anything that you are working on with the magazine coming up in 2018 or currently in the works?
them. I took a break from the magazine because of the whole separation part
Hmm.
and having to move and figure out bills and all that. But yeah, my next issue will have Matt Benton on the cover. I've already talked to him about it quite a while ago. He probably forgot. But he is my next victim to do a story on,
Okay.
because he's
Um,
paranormal.
the Man versus Paranormal film, or
Yeah, that documentary or film that he's done.
hmm I've actually worked on every location that he's been doing on that as a cinematographer, photographer, and everything. And I'm very eager to see that film come to fruition. It's it's
Me
interesting.
too.
It's an interesting film.
Cool. I can't wait till he drops that.
Well, hopefully he'll have the trailer done in the next couple months. I'm going to have him on this show, and hopefully you can get him on your magazine. So that'd be another cool way for him to tell the story about the film and everything. And I think it's cool that all of us guys get together and try to collaborate on things and work together, and it just makes you feel like you're part of something, as a whole, and that you're working towards something, and you're not just stuck on your island and everybody's competing and hating each other. I can't stand that. Well, I mean, what do you think of the state of the paranormal community at the moment? Do you think it's in a good place, a bad place? Give me all of your plight about that.
There is a mixture of both. I think, at least in the community we have here in Utah, it's mostly good. There's a lot of people here that I love. We all work together. We investigate together. We do little projects together. And then you have those couple of people that just refuse to be a part of that. You know, they don't want to be a part of the group as a whole. You know, the community. They don't want to work with others, and I can't understand why. Because I haven't grown more in the paranormal um, than when I'm investigating with new people all the time. I'm constantly learning from these people that I work with because different. We have different abilities as far as how we sense things during the investigation. Because I truly think that we sometimes just go off on a tangent, but it's not really a tangent. It's the spirits guiding us down that tangent, and we don't even know it yet. So I do worry about those people who just kind of shun the rest. You know, just say, you know, well, we'll do it without them. I think they're really missing out.
Right, and I agree with you. I think the thing that you may not understand, or you may understand, but you just don't understand why they're like that, is ego. They, they get intimidated and they get threatened by other people who they may think that is, better than them or can show them up or something. I think that's really strange, that people suffer from or experience, and they kind of lash out and react in these weird ways that make you think that, you're not good or what you're doing is wrong just because of that. And it's bad. It's really bad. Real quick, Linda Willoughby wants to know if you've ever investigated a place that you thought going in, oh, this is bogus, and gotten completely shocked by, by something you didn't expect to happen.
Um, has there been one of those locations? I'm sure. I'm sure. Trying to think on that one, but I have been surprised at a few locations before. I'm just trying to nail one down for you. Oh, there's this a little thrift shop in town um, that you know my friend who actually called Ghost Vlogs that she has on the internet. She investigated there long ago, and I kind of always put it off like, oh, it's just a thrift shop. Nothing really spooky about that place. But they get a lot of stuff from estate sales that come in and out of that building. And so there's attachments that come in and out of there, and they're right next door to a mortuary. So I've gone in there. It's not a very big place, but I've had some weird experiences in there, like, you know, getting touched and stuff like that. And these two little puppets they use in the Echo Box app. I don't know if you've ever used that before,
No, but it's
but
pretty popular.
it is popular. And I've used it for like 3 years. Can't stop. Actually investigating with that, and I was asking what would happen if I took him home, and the response instantly was death. And, you know, and I've never
Nice.
heard the word death ever come out of that box in 3 years. And that was their response. And we did have someone buy those and take them home. And that person actually got hit by lightning. He survived, but he got hit by lightning not much, maybe a month later.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow. That is crazy, man. That's interesting. That reminds me, there's a place out in Indiana called Willow's Weep. It's got this willow tree in the front yard that's got some type of weird negative energy curse involved with it. When you touch it or desecrate the tree in any way, bad things happen to you. And it, it kind of goes along with cursed items and stuff like that, and locations that will
Uh,
actually put hexes and curses and whatnot on you. And that's always been a phenomena that I've been immensely, curious about. I want to know if that's actually real or if it's just psychosomatic or in her head or coincidence. Do you believe that there's such things that exist, that the supernatural can affect somebody that profoundly and that physically?
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
I've had some weird experiences when investigating to where I've noticed myself suddenly switch my line of questioning. I probably would have never asked, just random stuff, and just I just switch. It just I go from one thing and suddenly I'm asking about something else, and I find out later that there's a reason for it. Because we captured a response that happened that I didn't hear right before I switched questioning. That goes along with the questioning I started going into. Like so, it's like a preemptive thing. It's like it happened first, and then I start asking about it later, and I never heard their response until I listened back. So
So you intuitively know what to ask, based on some information that might be you may be picking up on from the spirits, is what you're saying, more or less.
I don't know if it's like intuition or if they're just guiding you. They're just kind of putting that in your head at the moment. Because I don't think I have an intuitive bone in my body, to be honest. I'm totally a tech guy. Um, I try not to just soak in, uh, my environment unless I'm at the Watchful Club. I could just sit there by myself and just listen in an empty building. Just sit there alone. It's pretty cool.
Well, we're winding down. We got about 7 minutes before the hour mark. Why don't you tell our viewers all we've been able to retain about between 17 and 19 folks tonight, so that's pretty decent for this show. Why don't you tell folks how they can read the magazine, find it online, find you on Facebook, YouTube stuff. I do have that in the cards on the upper right hand part of the screen and in the description, but go ahead and tell them as well.
So the magazine has a website called Paranormal Veracity .net. You can go get the issues there. I post them there for free. There's also EVP files, videos, other projects that I'm working on, like the Shadows of Silver City documentary that we did in Virginia City is there. As far as Facebook, you can look up Paranormal Veracity on Facebook. We're there. I also have my personal page you can follow. I post to it all the time. If you're in Utah, I run a Utah Paranormal Events group page where I post all the local events out here and rare pictures, findings, videos. You can find me on Twitter at Paranormal Veracity and also Instagram, but I really don't know how to Twitter. I just have one.
He's faking it, folks. Well, we got to start blowing him up on Twitter and force him to log on and use it.
It's like I have a link to where it posts to Twitter for me. I don't know how to use it, to be honest.
It's just like Facebook, but it limits your post to like so many characters, and it's something that I'm more of a Facebook person, but Twitter does have its uses, I guess. I guess if people just want to get little tidbits of what you're doing, it's okay.
Uh-huh.
But guys, definitely.
I have a question for you, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
What do you think of Facebook Living and paranormal investigations?
Well, it has its pros and cons, definitely. I've tried to do it, and it can impact your investigation in some negative ways. Some of the negative ways that I've ran into is you're constantly having to interact or feeling like you have to interact with the comments and the people who are watching, that it really impedes your ability to do what you're there to do. And that's not good when you think about it that way. It's good when you're trying to interact with your followers and people who are interested in it, but at the end of the day, you're trying to go there to do a job, and it really makes that job even more difficult. So that's one thing I would tell you that I noticed right away. Uh, Also, you have a screen that's bright lit up in your face during the dark all the time, so you can't see anything other than that damn phone, because how I live stream is I use an app, and I use POV night vision cameras, and I put my phone on a rig right in front of my face, and I run mics through it, and it's this big setup and everything. But that's all I can really see and experience the whole time. So it's very impeding, very technical, and it's a big pain in the ass, to be honest. Um, a positive thing that I can tell you about it is, if something happens live, there's less likely a chance that you'll see trickery, you know, someone trying to pull a fast one. It's live and in the moment. Someone can see something when you see it. It's almost like a peer review right on the spot. If you have a good setup, good mics, good cameras, it could be beneficial in that way. So if you can find a balance between those two things, it may be okay. But it's definitely something that's very tricky and should be uh, figured out.
Yeah, I just don't do it during investigations. If you want to do a pre-walkthrough or an after walkthrough, so people can kind of check out the location and you can
Hmm.
talk to your. But yeah, it impedes my, like, I'm too worried about it if I'm investigating.
Yeah.
It's like I'm one of that I pace when I investigate. I'll pace and ask questions, and which is really weird. Kind of get into the zone where I'm no longer paying attention to the people around me, and I'll forget that they're there, and I'm just me and the questions.
Yeah, it's something that you definitely have to manage carefully if you're going to do it. Maybe one person moderating and dedicated to responding to the comments, and then say you, for example, not doing all that. You're just there with the camera pointing it as you're doing things. That's why I try to use my POV equipment, because I'm not, it's attached to my body. So I'm not having to do anything, So that's what I would suggest people do if they have that resource and capability, is just wire your POV cameras into your live streaming. And if you're interested in knowing how I do that, just message me, email me, and I'll help you out. I'm trying to come out with tutorials by January or February on how to do that. So I have a lot of interest in how I do that, and people ask me. But buddy, I appreciate you coming on and taking an hour out of your life to talk to me. Like I said, I just want to get to know you better. I want to see where you're coming from, what type of person you are, you know, how you answer questions. What can I take from that and learn? Because I know that there's always something, even if it's just one little thing, that I can learn or sharpen my skill at what we do a little bit more through this show. I find it highly, helpful, and I appreciate you coming on. I really do. So, I'm going to let you go, buddy, but before I do, all of you guys out there listening and watching right now, thank you very much for being here. But check out Paul Welch's YouTube channel. Check out his paranormal magazine at paranormalveracity.com, or Veracity, however you pronounce that. Check check out his Facebook, his Twitter, and his Instagram. Blow him up, guys. Subscribe to his channel. Give him some love, okay? Don't give him any excuse to walk away or feel bored or not feel appreciated for what he does, because he does work hard. We all do what we can to do a good job at what we do. So I'm going to let you go, Paul. You have a good night, and I hope I will talk to you again soon, and maybe possibly work together somehow in the future.
If you ever come out, we'll hook you up.
Sweet, man. If I ever come out to do Virginia City, me, you, and Matt Benton will all do it together.
Hey, that sounds like a plan. I can make that happen.
All right, buddy. I'll let you know if that ever comes up. You have a good night, okay?
All right, take care.
You too. All right, go. All right, guys. There you have it. Paul Welch, really super cool guy, very laid back, but very serious and very intelligent about what he does and how he approaches things. You can definitely learn a lot about how he does it and what he does and the places that he's been. And please go check out the links in the cards and the description of the video. And I'm sure he'll greatly appreciate it. We always end the show with some some shameless plugging. So what we'll do, if you want to support the Necromancer live show and Interface Death, which is my paranormal research group, go to Patreon. The link's in the cards, in the description, and the URL is right here. Check out the Necromancer live show and follow us on Facebook. Follow Interface Death on Twitter and Instagram. There's a whole bunch of links there showing our videos, the photos from our locations. There's production stills, there's still photography, all kinds of good stuff from these beautiful and very interesting locations. So please check that out. And if you are interested in becoming a Patreon, we always give them our support by shouting them out on this live stream and in the credits of our videos when we do that. Matt Benton and Clay Borman all pledge each month to our Patreon to help support the work that we do. So if you're interested in that, again, check out the links, find out how you can get rewards for becoming a patron. Thank you very much for tuning in each and every week. Thanks, Scotty, for super chatting again. That is freaking awesome that you do that. And that's another way you guys can help if you want to support the channel and what we do. You guys have a good evening. I'll leave it there. You're in my heart. I will see you again next week, Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel, 9 p.m. EST. We're actually going to talk to Wes King. He's got a little bit different outlook on the paranormal. He does a lot of ITC using ITC devices, so we'll get to talk to him. Until next time, I bid you farewell. You guys have a good night. Stick around for some promotions and trailers.
How long have you been associated with the school?
We got the school in March of 2017, so about 4 or 5 months.
Nice. So, you came to